I spent a good number of years working for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the first 8 were as the minister's assistant, Dan MacDonald. And I was fortunate enough to get to know him well enough to be able to write a book about his life called Left Arm Missing, Left Leg Missing, Unfit for Service. Well, Daniel J. MacDonald was a special person, I think, because of his determination, the fact that he fought through great adversity through his life. As you know, he was a severely wounded veteran of the Second World War. He joined the Prince Edward Island Highlanders as a young farm boy in the early 1940s. So he went to Italy with the Cape Breton Highlanders, and in December of 1944 he was severely wounded at the Battle of the Senio River in northern Italy along the Adriatic coast. He was wounded by an 88mm shell which landed apparently very close to him. His own recollection was he could remember a wall of dirt coming toward him, and then he didn't remember anything for a while. And after he was wounded, they took him to a farmhouse where he was kept for several hours while they waited for medical assistance or waited to evacuate him to a field hospital. And a few years later, in 1975, he went back to that farmhouse, and the grandmother remembered him from those days. So John Mackenzie told the story later of that the actual wound was a wound in his leg about the size of a toonie that severed an artery. But because of the dirt and so on, there was a good chance that gangrene set in, and that's why the leg and arm had to eventually be amputated. He then came back to Canada, met a young lady named Pauline Peters, got married, raised a family of 7 children, and established a farm in Bothwell. After a few years on the farm, he got very involved in a lot of community events and got involved in political life. He was appointed Federal Minister of Veterans Affairs after his election in the Cardigan riding in 1972 and served for a total of almost 8 years. He had always taken a very active interest in veterans issues, very active in the Royal Canadian Legion, very active in the war amps. Yeah, he was like so many of the other people who were involved in the Italian campaign, and felt to a certain extent that it was not really appreciated by people. The night that he passed away, Prime Minister Trudeau decreed that there would be a state funeral for Dan MacDonald. They were very close. So after the funeral, there was a more private family service in St. Columba Church in Eastern PEI, and that's where Dan is buried.
A message from the Government of Canada.